Hello, sir, class. How are you doing today? Today we're going to be taking a brief look at cyberbullying. Cyberbullying specific to the school system of today. What I did for my project is I researched 10 elementary schools. I tried to vary it from all over the country to get a wide array of how they look at cyberbullying and their policies and means to work against it. And what I found is most schools are very consistent with one another with their zero tolerance policy on cyberbullying. Now, cyberbullying, what we're going to do first is what I'd like to do is go right into the definition of cyberbullying. So, as you can see here, if you can read my writing here, I know it's kind of small, but to be honest, if you could see it, you probably couldn't read it anyway because I have very poor writing. Cyberbullying is the use of electronic information and communication devices to willfully and repeatedly harm either a person or persons through the medium of electronic text, photos, or videos. That is, I found that definition on 3 different school sites, word for word. So that was the most specific definition I found on the varying school sites. So today's world is very social media heavy. You know, it's not like even the world I grew up in. I'm not that old, I'm 28, but it's completely different than even the school years that I grew up through, because, you know, you have a 10-year-old kid, you know, it's got a Facebook, maybe even a Twitter, which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion, but it's out there. I mean, 10-year-olds have cell phones, so you're looking at your child having a means to, if he is a cyberbully, affect that victim across a wide area of network, you know, that it can be spread to a lot of people very quickly. And we can all remember how how we were as kids. I mean, I was not the nicest kid, and I remember a lot of other kids that were a lot worse than me. But you know, kids can be brutal. Kids can be brutal in the way that they treat each other, and the way they tease each other. And as bad as it were in our generation, now they can take something embarrassing about another classmate and spread it literally across the country. I mean, it can be very embarrassing for the victim. So, some examples of cyberbullying: sending false, cruel, or vicious messages. This is mostly social media related. You see a lot of this on Twitter. Twitter's a big one on this. You know, people comment something, and Twitter is, you know, they call it the Twitterverse for a reason. I mean, everybody can see that, not just, you know, your specific friends. It's open to the public, where Facebook, as bad as it is, you know, if you have a private account, it would have to be your friends that see it. Still could be embarrassing. But that's a big one. Twitter's big in cyberbullying, in the cyberbullying world. You look at a lot of athletes. Athletes have Twitter, and they'll get in these Twitter battles with fans because fans are vicious on them, on just stuff they really know nothing about, but they just want to have a means to act the way that they act. So they speak out on something the athletes did, and it just, you know, if athletes pay attention to that, it can really affect them. Breaking into an email account and sending vicious or embarrassing materials to others. This would be something like if you got into my email and you sent things to people in my name, you know, as from me. So you're pretty much speaking out of my voice and telling a lie. via the internet. Really, that's another reason, security is a big thing. I know within the military, everything, they want you to, encrypt all your passwords. Don't share your passwords with even family or loved ones. It's very important. Uh, Posting a student's picture without permission. This is a big thing with kids, especially. I would say most of these were elementary schools that I looked at. But the same with some of the high schools. This will be a big one for high school. The whole sexting generation thing, that's a big problem. You send a provocative, private message or picture to your girlfriend or boyfriend, and then you guys break up, and then it's spread all over the internet. It's scary. It's scary as a parent. I have a son, but just to think that I could have a daughter, that would be a scary thought for me, for my daughter or even my son to be embarrassed in that manner. Tricking someone into providing personal information and then sharing it, that could also be the picture again. But it could also be, how school is. I mean, we always say, high school drama or, grade level school drama, secrets being shared and put out. It was bad when we were in school. The difference is now it can be not only shared with people within our grade or classroom, they can share it. The whole school can know literally overnight, something that could be embarrassing to another child. Schools are taking, like I said, schools for the most part, every school that I found out of the 10 schools had a zero tolerance policy on cyberbullying, which is great. I mean, it's great. Most schools, the minimum I saw for a punishment was 1 day suspension. That was in a rare case. Most of the case it was at least 3 days. Some places it was a week. And the maximum being expulsion, which is might seem severe to some, but I mean, this is children we're talking about, and as a parent, I could agree with especially if somebody does this more than once, expulsion should be an option. There are some action steps that were on a couple of the sites. These were pulled from a variety of different school sites. Action steps to respond to cyberbullying or harassment. I was actually kind of aggravated that this one wasn't, at the top of the list and on more of the list, but to actually contact the cyberbully's parent. I mean, that would probably be my first plan of action as a parent. Maybe that's a little overboard, but I mean, I know if my son was doing it to another child, I would want to know, and I would want to deal with that myself, and I could assure you it wouldn't happen again. Save the evidence, print online harassment, that's obvious, I think. The thing is, it's tricky with that because now, I don't know how much you guys understand about Snapchat. There's an app called Snapchat where things disappear, which they would have to be friends with you to bully you, so I guess you could kind of alleviate that by unfriending the person. But some of this stuff disappears and can be removed. Even on Twitter, Facebook, you can obviously remove your own comment after you say it. So, once that hurt is done, it's done. So, what you want to obviously do as a victim is you want to print that stuff out. Print that stuff out. That way you have the evidence. It can't be erased, and that person can be punished. Identify the cyberbully. Obviously, you have to know who the person is. Again, if it's somebody anonymous that's doing this, that's another big reason to print it out. They can use technology. The same technology that's being used to bully you can be used to find out who's doing it to you. Ignore bully by leaving online environment or block the bully. I think this is a little light in a way of dealing with it. I mean, you can ignore the bully. In my opinion, this is kind of a lax step to go about, because you can ignore the bully, but it's still eroding your name. It's still is still dragging you down. The information's still going to be out there for others to see, even though you ignore seeing it personally. It's still there. So I would probably move straight to one of these, contacting the other, telling your parent, contacting the other parent. File complaint with the internet or cell phone company. Again, it's a way. It's an attempt. It's a technique, but I would go right at the source. I would either use this one, contact school administration, or I would go straight to, contacting the other person's parent. But either way, cyberbullying it's a huge ordeal these days. I chose to look up school systems because that's something near and dear to me. I was interested to see how school systems were dealing with it after I started researching originally, companies and how their policies affected things. These are pretty similar, but I became really interested in seeing how school systems, in particular, I also researched my son's school to assure they had a strong policy, and they did. They actually had one of the better ones of the 10 schools that I looked at. But as I said, this is a huge problem with today's not only youth, but overall population. And just wanted to provide you guys a little information, maybe help some of you parents out and how to deal with it and how to react to it if it becomes a problem with your child. Thank you.